A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13, powered by Tata Teleservices. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Now, as India's economy accelerates into a digital-first era, it's the country's SMBs that are quietly powering this growth story. To understand what it will take to unlock their next phase of scale, I'll be in conversation tonight with Harjit Singh, Managing Director of Tata Teleservices. Harjit, welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, Harjit, you have worked with thousands of SMBs. I want to know from you, if you were to list the key elements that can really fuel the SMB growth engine, to reach significant scale while competing with larger corporations, what would those elements be? And, what is the upside potential, to be very honest? And what role do you see technology playing in all of this?
Sure. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on a topic which I'm really passionate about. And as you know, I have probably a 2-decade experience of working with small and medium enterprises. It's important to register and acknowledge the contribution of small and medium enterprises to the present before we talk about how can their role be more can be amplified in the future as well. SMEs contribute as much as 30% to the country's GDP, which means that they carry a huge amount of economic weight. They generate as many as 25 crore jobs out there, right? It is also important, while recognizing the role of small and medium enterprises, in accelerating the economic growth of a country, to look at similar data in perhaps the developed world, where it is not uncommon to see that small and medium enterprises contribute as much as or even more than 50% of a nation's GDP. And that really leads one to the question as to why is this possible there and why is it not possible, say, in a country like India. And the reasons are also fairly apparent out there. Geographies where credit is plentiful, where credit is available not just to large enterprises, but also to small and medium enterprises, to not only address the requirements of the customer in the immediate term, but also build for the future, are the ones where you find that the relative contribution of small and medium enterprises is more. Enhanced credit also allows you to invest for the future, and you would see that small and medium enterprises in countries like the US, UK, Israel are far ahead in the technology adoption curve than, say, perhaps companies in India. And what technology helps them do is to open their market access. Again, I think it's perfectly understandable that the smaller organizations are not in a position to match the physical infrastructure of large enterprises, and that could become a limiting factor for their growth. But if you look at how customers are evolving, customers, not just enterprises, but customers like you and me, who are now discovering, buying, consuming their products and services, and the preference is to consume products and services digitally, that the physical element is becoming less and less of a factor. So with the evolution of businesses and customer behavior changing to the digital, potentially technology can play the role of enabler or a bridge, so that small and medium enterprises are not only relevant in their narrow geography, but they are relevant in a much larger geography. For instance, I could give you an example of a firm that we worked with. It was into Ayurvedic products, operating in a small corner in Kerala. Excellent products. Customers were deeply satisfied. Technology allowed them to move their shop from a corner in Kerala to the entire country, which today, on the back of technology, they are able to access demand all through the country, and not just generate demand, but fulfill it to a level where customers are really happy. So in a nutshell, if we play the customer journey or the technology adoption journey well, if a small and medium enterprise is able to stitch a customer journey that not only handles outcomes that are desirable today, but is also able to build for the future, they have every opportunity to beat larger enterprises in the game. Organizations, large and small, they are very intelligently using AI, cloud to solve the problems that they see in their sort of customer journey, solving it, and going fast on the journey to scale.
Harjit, you have often said that SMBs, they don't need enterprise technology, but they need enterprise thinking simplified. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think having set the context that technology can play the role of a enabler, I think it is very important to draw the contrast between enterprise technology and enterprise thinking. And let me try and give you an example, and hopefully the contrast will be visible through the example. Sure. So here we were working with a company which supplied, which was entrenched in the, let's say, automobile ecosystem. They provided auto parts to begin with to one large OEM out there, right? They initially operated out of one factory, and as the business grew from the OEM and more OEMs also came in, over a period of time, they set up about 5 odd factories there. So capacity to manufacture sort of really went through the roof. The revenues also improved. But if you look at the metrics that are important to a customer, they somehow started to suffer. So quality of products came down. Timeliness of delivery sort of came down. If I were to summarize, the company thought that the future and the scale, future growth, could be an extrapolation of what they do well now. So if I could run one factory to this level, naturally, all the other factories will also run at same quality levels. What ended up happening, however, was that instead of managing one integrated manufacturing facility that's a combination of 5 factories, they were almost running 5 businesses, right? So their process consistency around the 5 factories suffered. Management was separate. The teams were naturally separate, with the core team having very little visibility of what was happening there. Coordination of production, supply chain management, maintenance, none of that was there. I think that really is where enterprise thinking comes in. Enterprise thinking seeks to balance what you do well today with how you build for the future. Enterprise thinking is all about keeping your focus on, if you're driving a car, on the road, but also planning your journey for the future. And planning your journey doesn't mean just creating new products and services. You have to make sure that the customer journey in the expanded business scenario is stitched well, and your fundamental core value-adding processes can handle scale. So it's really, really important to think through your business and then go shopping for technology. You have a far better chance of succeeding and being competitive, and your ability to scale if you go down this path.
Right. But many SMBs today, they still look at technology as an IT cost, technological investments as IT cost. How can they reframe this mindset?
I would probably give you, again, a perspective from, my own company sort of here. We believe that we've stitched a good customer journey. At least the customer satisfaction stats seem to bear that out. There is very little churn. Our ability to cross-sell, upsell to our customers is very much there. And if I were to keep that context or that perspective in mind, I'm likely to look at IT as a cost and less an enabler. Because I've already made up my mind that, listen, a double-digit growth, good customer metrics, we are doing well. There's nothing that we have to do now. However, if I were to rephrase, or draw the perspective slightly differently to say, okay, yes, we have a dominant market share. We have 50,000 customers, but the market is in the millions. So there is a huge opportunity lying out there to be unlocked. I would see IT as an enabler, saying that how do I, move from 50,000 customers to say 1 million customers? That journey cannot be an extrapolation of what we do now. Because if that is the journey, then we would probably need lakhs of sales resources and lakhs of fulfillment guys and network guys and all that. But that can't be a sustainable picture. So I think what is important here always is to look at the bigger opportunity that is in front of us. And I can, for instance, share with you that we've chosen to take the latter perspective. And although we believe that the customer journey is good at this point in time, we've tried to restitch that customer journey. And to do that, it was easy to be, be biased by what we do now. So we've gone outside our environment, our competitive environment to begin with, and even outside our industry to see what other companies are doing. And then, you start seeing that this is a necessary piece. It's an investment. If you take that perspective, it's very difficult for small and medium enterprises to do that, because sometimes it's easy to take that perspective, but then it's difficult to invest, right? And again, I'll go back to some of the challenges that SMEs face, that even to build that perspective and work towards the future requires an investment. And there is no other way but to go through this journey of sort of building and using IT as your ally or technology as your ally, rather than view it as a cost.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13, powered by Tata Tele Business Services. From rethinking technology as a growth enabler to building globally competitive enterprises, in conversation tonight with Harjit Singh, Managing Director of Tata Teleservices, to decode why SMEs are truly India's real digital growth engine. A lot of the SMB leaders, even I speak to, they feel like digital transformation will disrupt their ongoing business. What would your advice be in terms of how they can navigate this transition?
Firstly, I think the bad news that indeed any digital transformation has the potential of disrupting your business, and it does end up disrupting your sort of business. But it is almost like a necessary pain to achieve that larger gain that you see, sort of in front of you. Having said that, it is possible for you to minimize the disruption if you, again, I'm not giving you any rocket science, if you plan your transformation journey well, and more importantly, if you execute it well. I briefly alluded to the fact that while our customer journey is good for the 50,000 customers that we serve, but if we have to serve the millions, the journey has to be very different. Now, organizations will take a different route to achieving that larger dream. They could work on individual portions of the value chain and say, okay, I believe that customer service is an area where I need more velocity. Some people will say demand generation. We've taken the approach of saying that the end-to-end customer journey needs to be reimagined and stitched. Now, how have we gone through this journey to minimize the possible disruption that can potentially be there, is to firstly really understand what are the challenges out there, what are we fixing for, and that actually to get an alignment on that is an easy thing, because your customer facing teams are telling you on a daily basis that while my numbers are good, but these are the areas where the customer journey could be much better. So alignment on what is the issue out there. I think the important step to take after you've sort of aligned yourself on what you're trying to fix is to stitch the customer journey, which is the next step that we've taken. So what we've done is saying that, okay, I understand demand generation is an issue for me. I understand that fulfillment is an issue. But we've also gone beyond our ecosystem to say, okay, what are some of the smaller and some of the larger players doing to fix these issues, right? Almost to an extent where we've now built aspirational workflows. Once you've done the aspiration workflows, you are in a much better position to then make the right technology decisions. So if you go down this path of planning, your disruptions are likely to be lesser. We've taken the approach of saying that we will go piece by piece. Let's look at the front end. Let's build solution and systems around stitching the customer journey or simplifying the customer journey from a sales, product, marketing point of view. Bring it into play, learn from it, and then stitch the next piece. And I can't overemphasize the importance of comprehensive user testing. I would certainly say that user testing, user training, and making sure that the product that you are, the system that you are bringing into production is defect-free is really, really, really important. So if you go down this deliberate path of planning well, executing well, you are likely to see lesser disruptions.
Right, absolutely. Harjit, you have also emphasized the role of an integrated digital partner, rather than multiple vendors. Why is that critical for SMBs?
See, all the examples that I've given you thus far while we are a medium-sized company, is that we have inherent capabilities to navigate through both what we want to do, navigate the demand side of the business and the supply side of technology. Many of the small and medium enterprises do not have those skill sets, right? For them, the demand side is easy to construct, but the technology options become complicated for them. And at the very beginning, I mentioned that their capability to draw resources, who are tech savvy and tech oriented and can help them make those decisions is limited, right? In that kind of a scenario, you would depend as an SME on partners who could stay the course in your journey with you and help you through their experience to navigate some of the pitfalls that I alluded to. Now, typically for small and medium enterprises, you have system integrators of varying sizes, who've traditionally helped them navigate this journey. More and more, the telcos also, as they're expanding their product portfolio, and the fact that they're working with thousands and thousands of organizations, are able to, bring that value and then learning and be of help to small and medium enterprises. But the fundamental issue being that since I would say the resident capability in small and medium enterprises to navigate, especially the supply side of technology, make the right choices on what to adopt and make the right choices on how to implement, are limited. It really requires a partner who is not just selling his product and services, but who is willing to stay the course in that long journey with the small and medium enterprises. That potentially can make a big difference to the success or failure of small and medium enterprises.
Right. Now, looking at the big picture, India's digital ecosystem has undergone major transformation over the last 10 years or so. Government initiatives, ecosystem support have really accelerated digitization. How important is this environment, for SMB growth today?
I couldn't overemphasize, the role that government, and not just the government, but the ecosystem players can play. Certainly, from a policy point of view, the situation as far as credit and ability, to access funds so that you could invest in your technology journey, that situation is far better. I think I would also like to call out the role of, I would say, DOT in particular and the telcos in making sure that at least the digital infrastructure is vastly improved. I think the one element where probably more needs to be done, is how do you help SMEs navigate the technology side of the journey, given the fact that they have a limited ability to draw on resources, who are experts in technology. And I would like to, cite some examples. I mean, there are countries like smaller countries like, say, Singapore, Malaysia, and even larger countries, relatively larger countries like UK, where the government has formed advisory boards. They call it the Champions Program, whose only role, and obviously they can't do it at scale, but at least they go about shortlisting small and medium enterprises that are relatively advanced in their tech journey, and give them the necessary advice that they require to hasten that journey even more. I think that is something that can be attempted. Usually the innovation quotient in the nation is really shaped by these small and medium enterprises. And if you really do enable them with resources, whether manpower or financial resources or technology, you would see far more innovation, and you will see that the country as well goes from strength to strength.
And finally, as we are wrapping up this wonderful conversation, tell us, if you had to give one piece of advice to all the entrepreneurs, to the SMB leaders watching our show today, what would that be?
I think the starting point for every business, despite the success that they're seeing in the present term, should build for the future. And I would say that's an aspect which is the thing to do even for larger enterprises. Certainly, I would recommend that while more and more advisory services could be available on the technology front to small and medium enterprises, I think they should take I would say, personal initiative in making sure that their skill set, their knowledge, is of a level where they can solve some of their technology problems on their own. And I frankly, I mean, I don't say it without sincerity, that I see a huge amount of growth sitting out there for small and medium enterprises, and for them to play a much larger role in the country. And I would say, plan for the future, build for the future, as much as you try and excel in the present, and get on the technology adoption journey as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Well, it was lovely having you on the show, Harjit. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13, powered by Tata Tele Business Services. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.